Yes, the victory was against a sub-500 team, but the dominant performance at Pittsburgh needs to be the spark that turns things around.
You are Locked On Louisville, your daily podcast on the Louisville Cardinals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Card Nation, what's going on, everyone? Welcome into this Monday edition of the Locked On Louisville podcast. I'm your host, Dalton Pence. This is my 6th year covering U of L, 4th year hosting this show. Thank you so much for making us your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network in the world. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The College Football Playoff concludes tonight, and FanDuel continues to be the best place to get in on the action. Visit FanDuel.com to get your College Football Playoff profit boost before the national championship tonight. A lot to discuss on today's show. 3 different sports, 11 straight victories for Jeff Walz and the women's basketball team. Last week was a huge week for multiple different reasons. This is the best team in the ACC, and they are continuing to prove it each game. The football program picked up a couple more portal commitments. They might have found their starting center for the 2026 season. We'll discuss that coming up here shortly, but we're going to begin today's show with the dominant men's basketball victory at Pittsburgh. 100-59 over the Pittsburgh Panthers on Saturday evening. This was a game coming into it, classic case of you had more to lose with a loss. There was more to lose with the loss than more to gain with the victory. Because you're currently ranked. Now, you might not be ranked when the new top 25 rolls around, but you might be. Regardless, you're expected to beat an 8-9 Pittsburgh team that was 1-3 in ACC play. The spread was 7.5, but point still stands. You're expected to win the game. So if you win the game, then it's like, hey, you handle business. We're not really going to pat you on the back for it. Yeah, you won it by 41 points. But still, Pittsburgh's not a good team. But if you were to lose that game, then we have a completely different conversation. And I think for the first time this season, I might have hit the panic button if Louisville had lost to Pittsburgh. But we don't even have to consider that hypothetical. We don't even have to go down that road. And thankfully, this was about as comfortable as a victory as you could have asked for. They didn't trail in this game. They led by double digits for the vast majority of the contest. Didn't matter. But kind of going back to the point of, even if you blow Pittsburgh out, there weren't going to be any significant takeaways. You weren't going to learn anything new about this team that you didn't already know. What we knew coming into this game is that Pat Kelsey is really good at beating the teams that he's supposed to beat. And that's great because, I mean, you look back to the past almost decade since Pitino got let go. Chris Mack won some big games, but he also dropped a couple that he had no business losing. Kenny Payne seemed like he lost almost every game to a bad team. But Pat Kelsey, yes, he's searching for that signature victory, but the floor is considerably higher. So you just couldn't lose, and you didn't. This was an opportunity to get back on the right track, get back in the win column. And I think that ultimately this needs to be the spark that turns things around, because Louisville hasn't really played good since the end of December when they played at California. It's been a couple weeks of lackluster play, like full game-wise. They've had some good halves, but lackluster play for the most part, right? You lost 3 out of your last 4. Even in the victory, you didn't play well against Boston College. So to get on the floor to get on the court and just ball out for 40 minutes, it was nice to see. I mean, this game was really never in jeopardy. Louisville opened up with a 13-0 run. And once they opened up the lead by double digits, it didn't dip into single digits. Like, Louisville just kept pushing up until halftime, in which it was 53-22 in favor of the Cardinals. Isaac McKneely started out hot. Ryan Conwell did as well. Ali Khalifa too. Looking at the numbers, all 5 starters scored in double digits Frew had 12, Wibberley with 12. Conwell had game high 24. Isaac McKneely had 11. Hadley with 17. Ali Khalifa, 9 off the bench. And Kobe Rogers had 7. Vangelis Zugris had 8, most of those coming at the end of the second half. But this was, even though you didn't really take much away from the win, like, I'm always going to celebrate a victory, because I think if you don't, you take away the whole point of sports. Like, what's the point in playing the game if you don't celebrate the victories? I do think that this was like a best case scenario type performance from Louisville, because you had Boston College recently and didn't really inspire a ton of confidence by that performance. Like, you trail by double digits in the first half. It was a close game for 30 minutes until you finally pulled away. Even then, it wasn't like completely out of reach. Against Pittsburgh, you dominated start to finish. You opened up the big lead. You maintained it. Yeah, second half, Pittsburgh started to shoot the ball better. Louisville's defense didn't play the best, but you're up by 30 points. You can't expect the level of intensity to be maintained throughout the whole second half when you are just blowing a team out the way that you are. So I don't put too much into that second half. So everything that you saw, it was fine. You made shots, which is awesome. It's been a while since Louisville had shot the ball well from the field and from three. They shot 63% from the field, 52% from the three-point line, 87% from the free throw line. They out-rebounded Pittsburgh by 11. They forced 10 turnovers. They had 24 assists to 8 turnovers, which is a 3 assist to turnover ratio. When you put up numbers like that, you're going to blow teams out. Louisville played perhaps their best game of the season, or one of their best games of the season. And like, I'm trying to separate the emotion from logic here, right? But what needs to happen is you need to use this to sort of kickstart a run. Yeah, Pittsburgh's not a good team. Nobody's arguing that. This is a quad 2 victory. Pittsburgh currently, as of Saturday evening, they were like 114 in the net, which is a quad 2 victory for Louisville. They're not a good team. They're 8-10 now, 1-4 in conference play. But this was a best case scenario. You didn't struggle. This was comfortable. You build the morale back up. You saw the locker room. They're dancing around. They FaceTime Kenai Roots, who missed this game due to injury. The vibes are good. And it seemed like things had started to spiral. If you can use this game to springboard you into a run going through the end of January and early February, then that's great. Another thing is margin of victory. It matters. You won by 41. You were supposed to win by about 7.5. Because of the margin of victory, you jumped up 4 spots in the KenPom rankings. You were 20th, now you're 16th, or you were 16th after the game. Things might have changed after Sunday's games. You never know. You're still top 20 in the net ranking. So as bad as things have been, seemingly, you're still right there. You have everything to play for. You just couldn't stumble against Pittsburgh. You didn't. So you need to allow this to set the foundation for what's to come, because we're going to have a conversation later this week about the end of January. Next 3 games are going to be challenging. You've got 2 home games versus Virginia Tech. You're at Duke, and then you have SMU at home to conclude the month. Those are 3 challenging games. Good news for the Cardinals is that the Virginia Tech game is a week from last Saturday, so they basically have a full week to rest up and prepare for the Hokies, which is a home game for the Cardinals. But hopefully Kenai Roots is back, as he's been doing with illness. Hopefully we have more clarification on Michael Brown Jr. This gives another week for him to heal and try to get back to game speed and get him ready to return for the Cardinals. We keep hearing that he's going to come back very soon. Now, we haven't gotten a legitimate timeline on that. And I'm not sitting there like fully criticizing things at the moment, right? But we don't know what soon means. We do, however, know that London Johnson is going to remain under his redshirt year. That announcement came after the Virginia loss. Said, we made the decision to activate him, and we kind of went back on that, and we are now going to keep him under red shirt. So the sooner that you can get Michael back, the better. Now, again, you can have the conversation of, well, Cardinals shot the ball well. When they do, they're going to beat anybody. I don't disagree. But I'm not going to sit here and be upset about Louisville shooting the ball well, especially when there's been a huge discussion about how the shooting splits have fallen off without Michael Brown Jr. and 4 players that have transferred in this season. So to have a good shooting performance, you're hoping that that can also sort of jumpstart the perimeter offense for the Cardinals. So great result. Doesn't mean too much in the grand scheme, but in the here and now, looking ahead to the next couple of weeks, you're hoping that it can serve a purpose and it can help set the foundation for what's to come. Hopefully a run for Pat Kelsey's team. We have a week off. This week, we're going to have a conversation about the net rankings, where Louisville sits with the metrics, where they sit in bracketology, and the next couple of games and how important they are. But when we come back, we're going to discuss the new commitments for the Louisville football program. The Cardinals might have found their starting center for 2026. We'll tell you who that is and more when we come back. Don't go anywhere. You're tuned to Locked On Louisville, covering your team every day. The college football playoff concludes tonight. The national championship between the Indiana Hoosiers and the Miami Hurricanes will happen this evening. FanDuel is giving all customers even more ways to get in on the action every single game day, including tonight. Right now, every college football playoff game, FanDuel users get a profit boost waiting for them in the app. And here's what I love about it. You get to use the profit boost on the bets you already feel good about. For me, I'm going back and forth on the money line. I don't know whether I'm going to ride with the favorite, Indiana, or take a shot on the underdog, Miami. Truthfully, I think I'm just going to build a parlay around the player props that I think will decide the game, and then apply the profit boost and go after even larger winnings. So I'm looking at the rushing numbers for both teams. Both teams have set the tone on the ground. I think that Roman Hemby is going to have a good night. I think that the Miami rushing attack with Mark Fletcher is also going to have a good night. And when you win, FanDuel pays you out instantly. FanDuel is the best place to get in on the action. Visit FanDuel.com to get your college football playoff boost before tonight's national championship game. Thank you so much for making Locked On Louisville your first listen of the day and making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network in the world. Look, if you haven't already, I'm going to continue to stress this. You need to check out our new Everydayer Club. Like, I've seen your all's comments complaining about the ads. Well, if you join the new Everydayer Club, you get access to an ad-free audio feed for Locked On Louisville, which is compatible with whatever streaming platform you utilize. You'll also get an invite to the members-only Locked On Everydayer Club Discord server, which includes a group chat just for listeners of Locked On Louisville. So go to lockedonlouisville.supercast.com or tap the link in the show notes to learn more. The portal is starting to wind down more and more. Of course, it closed on Friday, so if you wanted to enter the portal, you needed to alert your school before 11:59 on Friday, and we'll still see some commitments, right? But with the spring semester ad drop deadlines approaching, not going to have many more additions. Well, Louisville had 2 late week additions. The first one being potentially the starting center for 2026. It is Kentucky transfer Evan Wibberley. Evan Wibberley, 6'5", 300 pounds. He has 1 year of eligibility remaining. Spent 3 seasons at Western Kentucky. And then 2025, he was with the Kentucky Wildcats, was a standout player for Dixie Heights High School. So he is a Bluegrass State native. And when he was at Western Kentucky, he was an all-conference USA caliber guy. Transferred to Kentucky after a really solid 2024, and we'll come back to the 2024 numbers here in a moment, but he went to Kentucky with the I won't say assumption, but the intention on being the starting center for Mark Stoops' team this past season. He ended up losing that battle to Jagger Burton. Now, Jagger Burton is a multiple-year starter at multiple positions for Kentucky, to my knowledge, I believe. He started like over 20 games. He's appeared in 34 of 38, I believe. I forget the actual numbers, but Jagger Burton, very good offensive lineman. He ended up beating Wibberley out for the starting center spot. Now, as a result, Evan only played 9 snaps in 4 games. So he was able to maintain a red shirt. Thus, he's going to enter the transfer portal, which he did very quickly. He commits to Louisville, becomes the 5th Kentucky Wildcat to join the Louisville Cardinals this portal cycle. The main thing here is that he didn't play last year, really. So he lost out on the starting center role. And you're thinking, well, if he wasn't good enough to be the starting center at Kentucky and they weren't all that good, he's now supposed to be the starting center at Louisville? This is where you kind of have to trust the coaching staff. This is where you have to trust Richard Owens, Jeff Brom, and company, because you kind of wonder, well, things were bad. Coaching was bad. Did they make the right personnel decisions? Who knows? You see backups time and time again go elsewhere and perform really well. So it could be a situation of Wibberley goes elsewhere, change of scenery, plays better. Not naive enough to know that you're probably going to play better as an offensive lineman in the ACC than you do the SEC. You're hoping here that Wibberley can get back to 2024 form, where he was one of the best centers in the country. That was at the Conference USA level, but you're hoping that he's able to use some of that campaign and apply it to 2026. Wibberley, 6'5", 300 pounds. It wouldn't surprise me if he added about 10 to 15 pounds. 6'5" seems a little tall for a center, but in 2024, he was really good. 14 starts, didn't allow a single sack, 10 pressures overall on 553 pass blocking snaps, 939 overall snaps. He had an 86.3 PFF pass blocking grade, which was 6th best in the FBS in 2024. I know some people feel a certain way about offensive line PFF grades or PFF grades in general. Sometimes they aren't really fair to zone schemes, but I think it is a good metric. It's not the metric. I use it to kind of support what I see on the field, but you're hoping that Wibberley can return to 2024 form, where he was a really good offensive lineman for Western Kentucky. Am I going to immediately write him off because he didn't play Kentucky this year? I'm not, but there is risk involved that if he doesn't play well, you can't go to Jordan Church. He committed to Texas Tech. You're either going to have to go to Sam Seacrest or maybe Eric Doherty, the Boston College offensive line transfer, could slide into center. Who knows? But he is, at the moment, seemingly your starting center in 2026. Cardinals also added a safety from Ole Miss, Travaris Banks, TJ Banks. Worth noting that Dylan Rousey, the Murray State commit, ended up decommitting and going back to the portal. There are some rumors that he's going to go back to Murray State. Good for him. He was going to be a depth piece for the Cardinals in 2026. And it seems like TJ Banks could be a depth piece in 26 for the Cardinals, but I think that there's a larger chance of him starting alongside Cohen Entringer in the secondary for Jeff Brom's defense, who we still don't have a defensive coordinator announced yet. I'm kind of wondering, well, here we are January 19th, and is the coach still coaching in the NFL playoffs? Is he coaching in the college football playoffs? Who knows? What is the holdup is the main concern. Who knows? TJ Banks, 6'3", 200 pounds. He had 2 years in Oxford. He was really good high school prospect, top 260 player in the 2024 class. He was a role player in 2024. He played more in 25, where he recorded 20 tackles, a half of a tackle for loss. He also had a pass broken up. He appeared in a good amount of games this past season in Oxford. So the hope is that, well, with another year under his belt, with solid experience for a playoff team that made the Final Four, there is hope that you are going to be able to go to the ACC and ball out. So this is one of those players that's very easy to understand why the projection is what it is. But I agree, you still need depth in that room. So if he's a guy that could be adding to depth, if he's a guy that you could be looking at filling a starting role, or maybe you're looking to add another safety like you were looking to do with Rousey. And if you get another safety, he can be a depth guy, but if not, he could be a starter. We'll see how he ends up getting used with this Cardinals defense. So 2 commitments this past week. Not sure how many more Louisville's going to add. I know that guys that had visited are still out there in terms of not making a commitment yet. So we will discuss anything that comes up early in the week. But we're going to conclude today's show by reaffirming something we said a couple weeks ago. The Louisville women's basketball team is the best team in the ACC. We'll discuss more when we come back. Don't go anywhere. You're tuned to Locked On Louisville, covering your team every day. Tax season doesn't have to take over your life. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things off and move on with your day. With TurboTax full service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert start to finish without the stress or the guesswork. Instead of spending hours trying to figure out forms, you can meet with a local TurboTax expert in person or connect online. For me, with my PA announcing, with hosting this show, using TurboTax is a huge advantage because they handle everything from my W-2s to my self-employed forms, and they work to get me every deduction. It's a huge time saver, and it gives me real peace of mind knowing that an expert is handling it. For a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150 all in. If a TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year, just file by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit TurboTax.com/local to book your appointment today. Card Nation, with there not being a basketball game for men's or women's basketball until next weekend, this upcoming weekend, we're going to have another full weekly mailbag episode. So be sure to get your comments and questions into the YouTube comments below, and we will answer the best questions. So, but we mentioned it right before the break. We're going to mention it again. Jeff Walz is on fire. The Cardinals are the best team in the ACC. Since we had the conversation after the Tennessee and North Carolina victories, we talked about the win streak that Louisville had created. The Cardinals haven't lost a game since then, which really was before that episode because the last loss was the South Carolina game on December 4th. So Louisville hasn't lost a game since December 4th. They have won 11 straight games. We mentioned that the Cardinals were the best team in the ACC. They are proving that. Overall, they are 18-3. They are 8-0 in conference play. They are one of 2 undefeated teams. The other team is Duke. And honestly, they will play later on the evening on Sunday. This is being recorded at about 5:30 on Sunday evening. So who knows? By Monday, Louisville might be the only undefeated team in the ACC, but they're handling business. They picked up a road win at North Carolina in December. They beat SMU and then Virginia Tech, and then won at Miami, won versus Pittsburgh at home, won that game by almost 40 points. This past week was extremely impressive. It was an important week for a couple of different reasons. Number one, you build your resume. When you're able to go on the road and beat Notre Dame and beat NC State, that is huge for your resume. Louisville is number 10 in the net ranking currently, and they have 6 quad 1 victories. It's not even February yet. That's really good for your tournament resume, especially since you don't have a ton of opportunities, not like the SEC does. I mean, they seemingly have the majority of the top 10 ranked teams in the AP poll, but it's big for your resume. It's also big just from like a narrative standpoint, because historically, now maybe the numbers don't suggest this, I'm not really sure. Louisville has a tough time playing in South Bend and in Raleigh. And when you're able to pick up 2 wins in both of those cities in 1 week, that's huge to me. They beat Notre Dame by double digits. They had multiple players in double digits. And that's been sort of the name of the game for Jeff Walz's team. Balance. This offense is super balanced. It's one of the best offenses that Jeff Walz has had here at Louisville. Defensively, they are basically what you would expect from a Louisville defense. Pesky, they don't give you anything easy, and they're going to outwork you. Offensively, sometimes it's been an issue over the years. Not this year. Louisville has been really good from a balance perspective, and it seems like it's somebody different stepping up each and every game. Like against Notre Dame, it was Oklahoma transfer Raina Scott going for 20. Louisville won that game by 13. And then on Sunday, they overcame a double-digit deficit against NC State. And then they went down by 5 with 45 seconds to go in the game. And then Imari Berry took over, which truthfully she had done all game. She scored a career-high 33 points on over 60% shooting from the field, 60% from three-point line, had 12 rebounds, 2 assists, 3 steals, played 37 minutes, and hit the clutch shots. 3-pointer to cut the lead to 2, got fouled, made her free throws, and had a couple of buckets in overtime. Skylar Jones had 17 points off the bench. Like, look at how much production Louisville is getting from their supporting cast, not just their starters. Like Taj Roberts had 4 points, kind of struggled, 1 for 9 from the field. Louisville's starting 5. McKinley Randolph had 12. All 4 other starters, nobody scored over 6 points. So it had to be the bench. Raina Scott had 7. Arizona transfer Skylar Jones had 17. Had a huge 3-pointer late in this game. She had 5 rebounds as well. Imari Berry, 33 points, 12 rebounds. So they're just proving it each and every game. It doesn't matter who steps up as long as somebody steps up. And yeah, I think that Taj Roberts is still your number 1 option. I think that Imari Berry is like a 1A, 1B type option. But it is really encouraging to watch this team get production from multiple different players every game. And it's never just like one player, it's multiple players per game. And it's becoming very evident because they haven't lost in over a month. Now, the Cardinals will return home on Sunday against Boston College before going to Stanford after that. This was a very important 4-game stretch. Boston College is not a good team. They're the worst team in the ACC, 4-17, 0-8 in conference play. But at Notre Dame, at NC State, at Stanford, I mean, you're talking about the top half of the conference here. NC State, yeah, they might be having a somewhat down season. They were 13-5 coming into the game, 6-1 in conference play. They had 2 players get drafted in the first round of the WNBA draft last year, and it's a young team. I don't think they have a single senior. They had a really tough schedule, too, leading up to this point. So don't kid yourself. Don't make this mistake and assume that NC State wasn't a good team. That's a tough team playing in a tough venue. So credit to Jeff Wall's team for getting the job done in overtime, not giving up when adversity hits. Like, this team has been really good at overcoming deficits. So 11 straight wins. We'll see how long the streak extends to, but we will discuss more about the women's basketball team after next weekend's game against Boston College. That's going to wrap up this Monday edition of the show. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, leave us a comment in the YouTube section below. Both are great ways to help the show continue to grow. We'll see you right back here tomorrow. Have a great start to your week. Go Cards.